In this instructional video, I will talk about how and why to back up your FR-4X. But first, some background. As you know, or should know, like any modern electronic musical instrument, your FR-4X is actually a computer that has been built to simulate a musical instrument, but a computer nonetheless. And for that reason, it contains a CPU, central processing unit, various coprocessors like audio DSPs or digital signal processors, as well as memory. You should also realize that various features and operations that you activate or invoke on your FR4X are actually standard computer operations, like saving and retrieving data to and from external USB memory in the form of computer files. And it should come as no surprise that such data defines both the features that your instrument provides as well as how they work. For example, shipped from the factory, it contains 67 different selectable accordion simulations, called sets, plus 7 banks of 14 for a total of 98 user programs. All of these can be backed up to a USB flash drive. In addition, the FR4X is a highly configurable instrument. Unlike the 1X and 3X, the factory sets on the 4X can be easily modified to your preference. For example, a fully expanded 4X, as delivered by Roxy's, contains some 285 different orchestral sounds, or tones as they are officially called. But each set contains only 14 register buttons for immediate orchestral tone selection. That's a consequence of the instrument being built to mimic the general operation of an acoustic accordion, which typically has 14 register buttons. Well, obviously Roland cannot predict what exact tones you will prefer within each set, and for that reason, they encourage you to assign orchestral tones to various register buttons within each set yourself. Not only that, the 4X provides full orchestral tone editing capabilities to fine adjust or tweak each tone to your exact preference. View another video in this channel called FR4X Startup Orchestral Sounds for step-by-step instructions on how to do that. But if you do some of that, you might want to back up your instrument so that you don't ever lose your work and be forced to repeat it at some future time. Of course, the FR4X is a very reliable instrument. Still, as with any computerized device, the possibility always exists that its internal data gets corrupted. This has never happened to me, but I acknowledge the possibility. In addition, because of the instrument's configurability, it is highly likely that I will, at some point, make a number of changes, only to realize later that I don't really like them, but then not remember exactly what changes I made, and hence be unable to reverse them. Another scenario is if I ever do an operating system upgrade to my instrument. Roland just published one for the FR-8X. The day may come when they do the same for the 4X, and if they do, the system install procedure will most likely wipe out all custom installations and settings. In all these cases, it would be nice to be able to conveniently restore the instrument to some previously known condition, like perhaps to exactly how it was configured by the dealer where you purchased it, or to how you yourself adjusted it since then. Sure. Like almost all electronic devices, the FR4X provides the ability to restore the original factory settings. There are actually 3 separate restore operations. One to restore all the sets, one for all the user programs, and a third for both. These are described on page 95 of the reference manual. However, many people are reluctant to invoke these operations because their instrument contains special installations or modifications made by the dealer they purchased their instrument from, and invoking a restore to factory settings operation will wipe them out. That's a very legitimate concern. And that's the very reason why you should learn to back up your instrument to USB memory, as I am about to show in this video. Then, should the need ever arise to invoke a restore to factory settings operation, you can also reinstall whatever global settings, sets, and user programs existed at the time you performed your last backup. In addition, learning how to export and import from USB memory will allow you to get a lot more out of your instrument, as I will show. To begin with, you will need a fresh, clean USB flash drive, also called memory stick or thumb drive. Memory capacity is no longer an issue. You're best with less for the reason that the backup that I will encourage you to make does not require a lot, and it is not for regular use with your instrument. It's something that you want to keep in a safe place should the need to use it ever arise. So you don't need a lot of storage capacity. A 1 gigabyte is sufficient, but these days, those are actually hard to find. A 4 gigabyte is quite common, and it is more than you need. Buy a good quality one. It's best to format the flash drive on your computer before you start, and to perform a full format, not a quick format. When the computer performs a full format, it verifies all sectors on the drive for proper operation. If the format operation fails, throw the flash drive away and try another. To do a complete system backup of your instrument requires two operations, both from the Utilities export menu. They're surprisingly easy to accomplish. The first will be to export all the sets of your instrument, which, by the way, will also include all of its previously configured global definitions and preferences. The second will be to export all of the user programs on your instrument. To back up all of the sets on this instrument, I start by pressing the menu button. As it always does when I first turn on my instrument, the display presents me with the title of the accordion edit menu. I press the right arrow button 12 times, or I press and hold down the right arrow button until it scrolls to the very last menu title, called Utility. I press the Enter button to enter the menu. I press the right arrow button 7 times to arrive at the submenu called Export. I press the Enter button to enter the submenu. The display reports that it is prepared to perform a set export to USB operation. That's what I want. I press the right arrow button to proceed with the operation. The instrument reports that it is prepared to export as a file to USB memory all 100 sets in my instrument. This will include any custom sets that were installed by the dealer that I purchased the instrument from. And as I stated earlier, that export operation will also include all of the instrument's previously configured global definitions and preferences. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument responds by telling me the file name that it will use to save to USB memory, set underbar all. Although I could edit this name by using the plus, minus, and right arrow buttons, since I'm creating a system backup for archival purposes, that default name is perfectly appropriate. To proceed, I press and hold the right arrow button until the cursor scrolls to the very end of the text entry field. The instrument responds by prompting me to confirm, which I do by pressing the Yes button. The display indicates progress and completion of the operation. The display then returns to my previous location within the menu system, the Set Export operation. Now, what about the user programs on my instrument? I press the plus button to switch from the Set Export to the User Program Export operation. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument reports that it is prepared to export all user programs on the instrument to a single file on the USB flash drive. I press the right arrow button to proceed. It reports the file name that it will use to save to USB memory, UPG underbar all. As in the case of the set export operation that I just completed, that name is perfectly acceptable. Indeed, it is preferable for archival purposes. Again, I press and hold the right arrow button until the cursor scrolls to the very end of the text entry field. As prompted, I press the Yes button to proceed. The instrument reports progress and completion of the operation. That's it. My instrument is now completely backed up. I can press and hold the Exit button to return to the main page. Perhaps you are curious about what exactly the instrument created on the flash drive when I performed the backup export operations. It's an easy matter to plug the drive into your computer and take a look. You will see that it created two separate folders called MySet and MyUPG. Inside the MySet folder is the file called set_all.fr4. Inside the MyUPG folder is the file upg_all.upa. Together, these files represent the complete system definition of my instrument at the time that I performed my backup operation. And together, these files, installed within the appropriate folders of any USB flash drive, can be used to reconstruct an exact copy of my instrument, all sets, all global definitions and preferences, and all user programs. I recommend that you physically label that particular USB flash drive, indicating what it represents. Mine says My FR-4x 2018-0202. I can now put that flash drive in a safe place. Now, suppose it is a future time and for whatever reason I want to return my instrument to the condition it was in when I performed my previous system backup. It requires two operations, both from the Utilities Import menu. Of course, I need to plug my original backup USB flash drive into my instrument. As usual, I press the menu button and navigate to the Utilities menu. I press the Enter button to enter. I press the right arrow button 8 times to arrive at the title of the Import submenu. I press the Enter button. The display reports that it is prepared to perform a set import from USB operation. That is what I want. I press the right arrow button to proceed with the operation. The instrument reports that it is prepared to import a file containing all 100 sets. This will include any custom sets as well as all global definitions and preferences that existed at the time that I performed my backup operation. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument reports that it will install the file called set_all.fr4. That is the file that I previously exported. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument prompts me to confirm, which I do by pressing the Yes button. The display reports the progress of the operation until completion and then returns to the Set Import menu. I now wish to import from my backup USB flash drive all of the user programs that existed on my instrument at the time that I made my previous backup. I press the plus button to switch from a set import to a user program import operation. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument reports that it is prepared to import all 98 user programs. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument reports that it will install a file called upg_all.upa. That is the file that I previously exported. I press the right arrow button to proceed. The instrument prompts me to confirm, which I do by pressing the Yes button. The display reports progress of the operation until completion, and then returns to the UPG import menu. I can now press and hold the exit button to return to the main page. My instrument is now returned to the exact condition it was in at the time I made my previous system backup. Well, there you have it. You now know how to do a system backup operation on your FR-4X, thus protecting you from ever losing all of your instrument's current sets, system definitions and preferences, and user programs. But knowing how to use the export and import utilities is valuable for another reason. As you are surely discovering from these public instructional videos at Roxy's, to take full advantage of the orchestral range of your instrument for all of your music, you can adopt a more modern playing strategy that I usually refer to as saved multi-part song orchestrations. This strategy is well established in the keyboard community, and it involves regular transferring of user program bank files representing multi-part song orchestrations between USB memory and your instrument's internal memory. You use the export and import utilities, but not as I used them earlier in this video, operating on all of the user programs at once, but rather for only one bank at a time. It's another choice available from both the user program import and export utilities. I demonstrate this in another video in this channel called FR-4X Importing Orchestrations from USB Memory. It's fast and convenient. Whenever I describe this playing strategy to accordionists who are unfamiliar with it, they typically immediately ask how many songs can their instrument hold at any one time. They often suggest loading orchestrations of different songs into different user program banks for more convenient access. I don't blame them for initially thinking along these lines because their background on acoustic accordions has led them to viewing their instrument in a kind of hunt and peck manner. Press this button to get one thing, press that button to get another. But a V-accordion is an electronic instrument, and with electronic instruments, one can adopt an approach of importing each song by file name directly from an external USB flash drive, just as on a computer, one accesses data by file name stored on a hard drive. And as long as all song orchestrations consist of 14 parts or less, using this approach requires the use of only one user program bank on the instrument, typically bank number 1. Again, watch the video in this channel called FR-4X Importing Orchestrations from USB Memory. Thus, you can reserve the other user program banks on your instrument for other purposes, like holding custom banks that were provided by your dealer or that you purchased yourself online. Another common use of extra banks is to hold orchestrations that are in process, that is, songs that you have started to orchestrate but have not yet completed. Of course, everyone can have their own strategy for organizing and operating a musical instrument. But the fact is, once one starts to use this saved multi-part song orchestration playing strategy, most people eventually realize that rather than stack up your banks with song orchestrations, it is actually more convenient to retrieve them directly from one common place, the USB drive, where they are listed by song name automatically sorted in alphabetical order, and to load them into a particular user program bank that you reserve exclusively for your performances, like bank number 1, for example. The advantage of this approach becomes especially obvious once the number of songs in your formally orchestrated performance repertoire becomes large. Some people then say, well, what about a gig where I only want to play certain songs that represent a small fraction of my total performance repertoire? In that case, it is convenient to copy the user program bank files representing those songs to a separate USB flash drive to use exclusively for that gig. But again, as I repeat often in these videos, there is not one way to operate a complex musical instrument like the FR-4X. Eventually, one gravitates to whatever strategy best meets their particular needs. We hope you have found this Roxy's instructional video helpful in determining what works best for you. And remember, when you purchase an FR-4X from Roxy's, you also receive additional non-public video instruction that we provide exclusively to our own customers. Everyone at Roxy's wishes you success on your FR-4X.